Welcome, myself Papri Hazra, Assistant Professor at Patuakhali Science and Technology University, Bangladesh. In the previous lecture, I have discussed about the introduction and basic conception of renewable energy, climate change, and sustainable development. Today, I will discuss about the synergy of renewable energy, climate change, and sustainable development, including the role of energy for achieving the sustainable development goals, importance of renewable energies in climate change mitigation, and finally, the linkage between the Sustainable Development Goal 7 and Sustainable Development Goal 13, that means climate mitigation. The role of energy in achieving the Sustainable Development Goals. The Sustainable Development Goals cannot be achieved without ensuring all sectors and addressing all existing goals and targets. The Sustainable Development Goal 7 is highly interlinked with all other types of goals. Now I will discuss the role of Sustainable Development Goal 7 for achieving the other goals one by one. The Sustainable Development Goal 1 and 2, that is poverty and hunger, access to affordable energy sources for heating, lighting, and fuel has a significant impact on a community's socio-economic well-being. For the sake of humanity, every attempt should be made to increase the use of renewable energy sources. Since the dawn of time, energy has been a critical component of food production. In case of sustainable agriculture system, the safe and clean energy is basic need for food production. Further, in agriculture, renewable energy technologies are important. Okay, then come to Sustainable Development Goal 3 and 4, which is related to health and education. The energy conservation and renewable energy programs have direct health benefits. The move away from the fossil fuels and toward renewable energy sources aims to minimize the emissions of greenhouse gases such as nitrous oxide, sulfur dioxide, carbon dioxide, which are all harmful for human health. Besides, the number of students in developing countries is directly proportional to the availability of rural electrification, which trigger the education sector. Well, now the Sustainable Development Goal 5 and 6, known as the gender equality and quota. Women usually are responsible for accessing the cooking energy, school, jobs, and the searching for cooking fuel take up much of their time. There is a persistent need to close the gap between rich and poor in terms of fuel. Besides, water is essential for life and it takes water to generate the energy and the energy to ensure that the water is available for domestics and for industrial use. Okay, then the Sustainable Development Goal 8, that is economy. Globally, the energy market is expanding with new and creative energy projects dominating the investment platforms. Energy uses that is sustainable will drive economies and offer solutions to poverty alleviation and green development, providing prospects for economic empowerment and a long-term future. Thus, energy regulates the global economy. Now, the Sustainable Development Goal 9 and 10, that is industrialization and inequality. The Industrial Revolution was highly reliant on fossil fuels, result in natural catastrophe. Some countries are far more impacted than others, and it is critical that the planet quickly transitions to a green industry for mitigate the consequences of past wasteful energy uses. However, the world access to reliable and consistent energy is still uneven, with some countries well ahead of their peers in terms of technology and management. There is a need for a compromise and standardized solution. More energy funding is needed to finance the change initiatives and to reduce the inequality. The Sustainable Development Goal 11 and 12, that is inclusive cities and production or consumption. The resilient and sustainable ecosystems can only be defined as such if they are driven by a clean and well-managed energy resource. Manufacturing consumes a significant amount of energy resources. The conservation discussion is intense and there are numerous efforts to use and produce surplus energy for distribution. The focus is on increasing energy efficiency and controlling the production cost. The Sustainable Development Goal 13 and 14, that is climate action and life below water. The climate change and the energy are strongly noted. The two are interchangeable. Energy production and use has a substantial environmental impact worldwide. There must be a balance between the global energy requirements and the climate change agenda. Marine energy is a new subject that is being explored with the aim of harnessing wave and tidal energy as well as the salinity and temperature variations. This approach has the potential to provide a new renewable energy alternative. The Sustainable Development Goal 15 and 16, the environment and the society. Man's irrational use of bioenergy has set the planet on a path for climate change that needs to be reversed. The rate of forest logging is exceeding the replacement efforts. Each country's energy policy must be reworked to include the pursuit of energy solutions that do not disrupt the natural order. According to the legend, the next world war will be waged on the seas. So, the environment and society have to be focused on the energy use. The Sustainable Development Goal 17, the global partnerships. The fight for energy cannot be on oneself. The best efforts of one country will quickly fade into insignificance due to the negative effects of another. The entire planet is one unit bound together by humanness. In the energy spheres, every action has a corresponding and opposing reaction. The work can only be won by cooperation and goodwill, with each soldier donning their energy peace helmet and energy prudence armor for all. Importance of renewable energies in climate change mitigation. The climate change is the most significant issue facing the world today. Climate change is already having an effect on various parts of the globe. If left unchecked, the long-term negative consequences would almost certainly be enormous, costing much more than avoiding them. The shown graph depicts the rise in greenhouse gas emission. If the current trend is rising, the greenhouse gas emission persist, there is a risk of major climate change in the future. As a result, the finding an alternative to non-renewable energy sources such as fossil fuels has become critical, not just to ensure the energy efficiency, but also to combat the climate change. The renewable energy has the potential to be a very good and efficient alternative to non-renewable energy sources such as fossil fuels. Since the renewable energies are abundant in nature and can help to offset the climate change, they have the potential to ensure the long-term energy sustainability. Ways the renewable energy sources will aid to climate change mitigation. The renewable energy sources will aid in climate change mitigation by less emission of greenhouse gases. In comparison to fossil fuels, most renewable energy systems emit very little carbon dioxide into the environment, making them valuable resources for combating the climate change. Wind, solar energy, biomass, and the other renewable fuels emit very little or no greenhouse gases during their processing and transportation. Less accidental spills during the production operation. While renewable energies necessitate advanced technology for the energy production, once in place, they are less vulnerable to operational errors. As a result, unlike non-renewable resources such as fossil fuels, there is a very low risk of toxic materials spreading into the atmosphere. The comparison of greenhouse gas emission from non-renewable and renewable energies. In comparison to non-renewable energy, the renewable energy emit very few greenhouse gases during the electricity generation and other operations, as seen in the table. According to a 2019 study from the International Renewable Energy Agency, renewable energy direct use of renewable heat and fuels and electrification of end-use industries by a renewable energy are responsible for 75% of emission reductions. Finally, it is clear that the renewable energies can be a very reliable solution for ensuring the energy efficiency and mitigating the climate change. The synergies between the energy, that is Sustainable Development Goal 7, and the climate mitigation, that is the Sustainable Development Goal 13. The Sustainable Development Goal 7, clean energy, and the Sustainable Development Goal 13, climate mitigation, is closely linked and complementary in nature. Universal clean energy access can reduce the greenhouse gas emission, ultimately the mitigation of climate change. Basically, it is possible for transition of energy use from the traditional fossil fuel to alternative renewable sources. In every steps of development, policy have to be accurate and priority basis on reduction of greenhouse gas emissions. The social, economic, and development has a great influence on natural environment. Like every development needs source of power like energy, and most of the time the energy is forms of electricity, and production of electricity from fossil fuels have the enormous influence to produce the large volume of greenhouse gases. So, in order to reduce the climate shifting, need to reduce the greenhouse gas emissions, but to develop the gross domestic product or the Human Development Index need further development. But most of the time, for taking any development policy, the issues of greenhouse gases emission or the impacts of natural environment is overlooked. That's the main reason for failure of sustainable development. In order to fulfill the Sustainable Development Goal 7 and Sustainable Development Goal 13, worlds must have to use the efficient energy. Otherwise, the environmental issues can set back the benefit of the developments. Thank you very much for watching this video.